to another episode of Mind Over Masculinity, the podcast where we drop the masks, break the cycles, and redefine what it really means to be a man. Yes. And dear listeners, today's guest, he's not here to play small, and neither are we. So please welcome Chris Marhefka. So, welcome to the show, Chris.
Hey, Avik. Thanks so much for having me on. Glad to be here.
Amazing. So, dear listeners, before we delve deep into the discussion today, I'll quickly love to introduce you with Chris. So, Chris is a force of nature, like from building multi-million dollar businesses to co-founding the global men's movement 13 Pines. His story is a powerful journey of descent, awakening, and you can say purpose. So, after chasing success to the brink of collapse, he choose something far more courageous. It's to feel, to heal, and to truly live. That's something we all love, right? Yes. And we are diving deep into what happens when success is not enough, when our bodies say no more, and when we finally stop chasing someone else's dream and start reclaiming our own. Yeah. So buckle up, dear listeners, because this one's for the man who's been grinding so long and he forgot why he started. So wait, let's get started. Welcome to the show again, Chris.
Hey, thanks so much for the amazing introduction. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So Chris, we'll just take a moment to take it back to that moment, like 2016, February 26. You are in a shape and competing hard, crushing life on paper. Everything was, changing. So, what was going through in your mind? I mean, in that immediate aftermath, uh,
Mm,
were you terrified, relieved, confused? So, what was the scene that time?
yeah. Yeah. That is such an one of the most impactful moments of my life and my journey was that day in February. I was competing in a CrossFit competition. CrossFit is a very intense workout modality, and I was competing in the sport of CrossFit, and I was in a competition, a tournament, if you will.
Hmm.
And up until that day, I was really like you said, crushing it on in so many ways. I was running three different businesses at the time that I had started, grown, and I was, competing in both CrossFit and Ironman triathlon, which is another very intense modality, and training all the time, training 20 plus hours a week and just working nonstop. I I was just telling this story to a friend yesterday, actually. There was a period in my life, and it was right around this period that I was
Okay.
experimenting with the most extreme, it's called polyphastic sleep. And basically, it's just a way to try to train your body to sleep less. And long story short, it did not work for me. It just led me to sleeping less, but not recovering and completely stressed out. Going into that day in February, I mean, peak stressed. Everything you can imagine. I felt like I was carrying it on my shoulders. It was, and it felt so heavy. And yeah, in a lot of ways, from the outside looking in, it looked like I was crushing it. I was successful financially. I was married. I had the house and the real estate, and it looked like I was doing so well. But even before that moment, I really wasn't doing that well inside. I was so conflicted in my life, mostly about like asking the questions: Was this it? Was this just more money, more achievements, but really lacking the fulfillment inside? And I was doing stuff that I wanted to do. I'd start companies that I knew was helping people, and yet for some reason inside of me, I still had this empty hole, this gaping hole that I just could not fill with more achievements. And yet I was trying. I was doing all these hard things to fill that hole. And in the middle of, or actually right towards the end of this competition, there was, I think about less than a minute left in this last workout, and uh, I was going really hard, pretty much as max as I could, and I started to get this pressure building in my head. And I've worked out very hard. I've raced and I've really pushed my body hard. And I just thought this was just another like, okay, got to push through the pain. And like so many of us have been taught, push through the pain. And and it kept getting worse. And right around the end of this workout, less than a minute left, it just mm, felt like a grenade went off inside of my head, an explosion inside of my head, and I I passed out. I hit the floor, and when I came to shortly after, there was just music blaring, and competition was still going. Music blaring, bright lights, and every single time my heart beat, it felt like someone was hitting me in the back of the head with a baseball bat. It was excruciating, 10 out of 10 painful. And in that moment, I was first confused. I remember being so disoriented, not knowing what happened. I had never experienced I'd never experienced passing out. I'd never experienced that level of pain before, physical pain. And so I was just confused at what happened. And then shortly after, like moments later, after starting to regain a little bit of uh, bearing on where I was, remembering, okay, this is what I was doing just a moment ago, and the room that I was in, and I started to get very scared. I was,
Mm.
in fact, terrified. Terrified because again, I had no idea what just happened. I had no idea what this meant. Like, did I just like really seriously hurt myself? And then terrified because this 10 out of 10 pain was not going away. It was excruciating. Um, and so, yeah, that was like a moment in time that I will never forget. I'll never forget the feeling of it. And it was uh, in a lot of ways, the catalyst for my journey that continued over the next almost 10 years since then.
Wow, really amazing. I mean, thank you so much for sharing that. And uh, like so many men push themselves like until the body forces them to listen. I mean,
Mm,
it's like we don't feel uh,
mhm,
we have that permission to slow down. Uh,
mhm.
yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah. So yeah, you're saying something, please.
Yeah, I was saying that, yeah, it's taught to so many men, and there's so much of our culture that actually praises and embraces that. And
Mm,
so for me, I didn't know any other way. Like I didn't know any other way but
mm,
full speed ahead. And I was out like externally, I was praised for that. I was praised for how hard I worked. I was admired for like all the hours that I put in. And so it was both an internal thing as the only way I knew, but also the external validation of it. And I had no I had no model of what it meant to slow down and listen to the body. Looking back, I had really no awareness of that at all. I just thought I was invincible at that period in time.
understood. And like, what were the first signs that the life you built wasn't actually yours anymore? I mean, anything you can
Mhm.
share.
Yeah. Yeah, it was looking back, it's so it's so funny the timeline that happened because it was only just about 3 months prior to that that I started to question it all. It was December 2015, so we're going backwards about 3 months, and it was my 30th birthday. And every year on my birthday, I would sit down and I would set goals and I would review my year. It always worked out well because my birthday's towards the end of the year. So going into the new year, I always had a direction. I had the goals I wanted to achieve that year. And I remember sitting down on my 30th birthday in 2015, and I looked at all the past spreadsheets that I had. I looked at the past year. I looked at all that I'd achieved. I looked at the physical feats, the mental feats, the financial feats. I checked the boxes of all the things that I really thought I wanted to do or was told that I should do in my life. By the time I was 30, I had really, really went for it and I did it. And on one hand, there was um, a little bit of pride around that, but I think there was so much more of confusion because even with doing all those things, even with working so hard with all the achievements that I had racked up in the metaphorical trophies, I still felt like I was empty. I didn't have a sense of fulfillment. I didn't have a sense of peace and words that I probably wouldn't have used back then, but life was still very, very hard despite having all of these things. And I remember that was the first time I started to question, what
Mm.
is the point of this life? Like, what is the point of even doing all of this? And, it scared me in a lot of ways to question that because it was what I had built my whole first 30 years of life on it and like work hard, get the achievements, get the external praise, and then keep going. And I looked at my goals and I was like, what am I just gonna shoot for another zero in the bank account or another physical achievement just like the last ones or and all these things that they just in that moment felt like that wasn't going to do it for me. Like it wasn't I was going to be in the same seat over and over again year after year feeling the same way if I was to continue going down the same path. And so that was the first time I started to question all of that. And you know, looking back, I wasn't judging my decisions. Like I love that I jumped into entrepreneurship in my early 20s. I love that I started the businesses that I did. I loved that I was serving people. I really felt that I started them all for the right reasons. And even that I was doing really good work in the world. But the
Mm.
part that was missing was something inside of me. It wasn't all the things I was doing. Like there was nothing wrong with the accomplishments and the competing in sport and all that. Like I think those are all great things. But it was just the way that I was holding them and perceiving them. It was this internal thing that I had never even considered before. I l l like, at that point, like, I had cut off all the feelings. I had cut off any sort of intuition or any sort of internal reflection. It was always external reflection of, like, what I was doing in the world. And so this was the first moment where I was, like, starting to dive into, like, what is missing? Like, this big question, what is missing? What is this life all about? And then, of course, 3 months later, this event happened, and it really forced me into further, uh,
Mm.
reflection and contemplation on it because I had to at that point. I was stopped in my tracks.
I agree. I totally agree on this, definitely. And like, and yeah, and also I think like a lot of men carry this silent age, and um, the more we build, the more we fear losing it. So, uh,
Mm,
yeah, it's actually killing us.
mhm,
So,
mhm,
yeah. And like I have to bring this as well, like you made some massive decisions, like
mhm,
ending your college, leaving the business, and that level of reinvention, it actually needs guts. So
mhm.
uh, like, was there a moment when you thought that, am I crazy for doing this, or I mean, is it like feel like absolute clarity? I mean, if you can share that.
Oh, such a great question, and I laugh because there was many moments. There was more moments that I thought I was crazy than not,
Mm.
honestly, and it was And I think most people in my life thought I was crazy as well, to be honest. I know so many people loved and supported me, but I don't know if many people were supporting the decisions I was making back then, or they definitely didn't understand them, is a better way to
Yeah.
put it. And I didn't even fully understand them. Um, but the way that I look at it now was it was as if the first 30 years of my life, I was living for others, and I knew that I needed to go on a quest to live for myself, a hero's journey, if you will, to learn what it meant to live for myself and to really find myself, find inner peace, find self-love, find the truth of who I was. And I definitely I definitely don't at all regret the first 30 something years of my life. I think I learned so much and I really went for life, and it taught me so much. And also it brought me to the point of, like, ultimately realizing that that's not what it's about. That's not what it's about for me. And I needed to go on that journey. And so, part of like letting that version of me die in many ways, was before I ever really knew about death and rebirth. It felt like I needed to. It felt like for this new version of me to be birthed, and I had no idea what that meant at the time. I needed to let some of these old ways die, and the injury really helped because it forced me to stop. And along the way, I realized that I was
Mm.
carrying so much stress, and I needed to let some things go. I really needed to decide what was important to me, and at that time, I really realized my own health was so important. So part of it was just pure survival, to start letting some things go because I owned a gym for 10 years. I've been working out for over 20 years. And really I've always said I was committed to my health. I was running a healthy meal delivery service at the time, nutrition coach, mindset coach. But here I was in this physical pain because I didn't listen to my own body. So I wasn't practicing what I preached at all. And so I felt a little hypocritical at the time, and I knew I needed to focus on my health because if I didn't have my health, none of that mattered. For the first time in my life, at that moment, I was in fear for my life. I had never seen my own mortality until that moment. And in that moment, it again terrified me. And with that came just a realization that, hey, maybe I need to mature a little bit. Maybe I'm not as invincible as I think, and there will be a day that I'll die. And um, will I be able to lie on my deathbed with gratitude for my life and proud of what I did in it? And these were all things that were going through my mind during this time. And yeah, again, the most painful journey because a lot of things that I love, I did let go. I let go and sold the businesses that I deeply cared about, the employees that I had worked with for years and really cared about and still do. And then ultimately my ex-wife, I cared about her, and I still do care about her as a person, and just the person that I was at the time.
Mm.
um, it wasn't serving to stay in that relationship. And so, yeah, I had to move forward with the divorce. And that was the last thing. That was probably the second incredibly pivotal moment because that was the last thing that I was defining my ego as. Like, all the physical stuff fell away with the injury. A lot of the business stuff fell away as I started to part ways with my businesses. And the last identity that I had was like this good husband identity. And then once that was gone, there was like nothing left. There was just a blank slate of just me. And that's when the real work and the journey really went deep for me.
Understood. I mean, sometimes it's not the clarity that moves us, it's the pain as well. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, to be clear, Avik, I had no clarity where
Mm,
life was going to take me or where I was going to lead my life,
mm,
which was so different from how I lived the first 30 to 32 years was all around making a choice or making a decision and committing to it and then doing the work to get there. It was like this
yeah.
controlled growth. I was always setting the goals and I was always working towards them. And so at this point in my life, I was going into a completely foreign place that I'd never been before. And it was scary. It was so scary not knowing what was next. It was so scary of letting go of all of these parts and these masks of my ego that I didn't know what else would be in its place. And yeah, that's the thing is like now looking back, I've learned how to lead with clarity and I've learned how to uh grow from clarity or grow towards what I want. But back then, I was just growing away from the pain and away from the stress. And so I know we always have the choice that we can grow from either. We can grow towards something or we can grow away from something. Back then, I was just growing away from all of the things that I didn't want. And as I started doing that, the things I actually do want, desire, and find important in my life started emerging. So they started emerging over that journey.
Mm. No, but that's a good part of it, definitely. And like, uh, about if I have to say, like, after everything, like burnout, success, reinvention, what does wholeness look like for you today?
Mm, wow, such a great question. Mm. So the first part of that answer is
Mm,
probably the most simple,
okay.
and it's to take a deep breath
Mm,
and be at peace with who I am, where I am, what I'm doing and expressing in the world, and to be completely at peace with just one deep breath. And I think that's a huge aspect of my wholeness today that I did not have back then. I was always trying to be someone else. And today there's a complete peace in who I am. Also with that wholeness, is I know who I am. I have gone to the dark places. I've gone deep inside and I've faced the shadows and the proverbial dragons. And so and I continue to, but I really have gone deep to the point to where I know what I am and what I'm not and where I'm learning uh and so there's also a piece with that as well. There's a wholeness with that as well. And I think I couldn't leave out the answer of self love. Like, not only do I accept and I'm at peace with who I am, but I love who I am. I love my life. I know how blessed I am, and I love who I've become and who I am continuing to become. And I think that self love, I actually the divorce was what catalyzed my self-love journey because prior to that, I was always seeking external love and validation. And when there was no one left to give it to me, like there was no employees, there was no wife, there was no um, people that were praising me for my achievements. When there was nothing left, I had to find that internally and really create that internally. And so self-love is a
mm,
huge part of wholeness. And I think especially for men, or the masculine part of all of us, it's to be working towards something we truly believe in. A lot of people would call that purpose. So I think a big part of wholeness is how we serve what we truly believe in. And that can be so many different things. It's an unlimited amount of things, but really the only like requirements of it is that you truly care about it, you believe in it, and it's in service to others. And I think if we are doing all of those things, there's a real sense of wholeness. Um, yeah, that's I think that's the majority of my answer. The part that I would also layer in there now that I'm feeling it is sharing it with other people that you love and that love you. And I think the communal aspect to us as humans is really understated. And so if I had all those first parts of my answer, I think I would feel largely whole, but the joy in life that I feel is because I'm sharing it all with those that I love. And I think that is like the cherry on top of the wholeness for sure.
Got it. Got it. Ooh, that's so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this and walking us through your fire, and at the same time showing us that what's possible on the other side as well. So I have to say that your story reminds us that rock bottom is not the end; it's the beginning of uh, becoming whole. So
Mm.
everyone who is listening, you maybe you are at the your breaking point. Maybe you are killing it on a paper but dying inside. This conversation is your permission slip to pause, to feel, and also at the same time to choose a life that actually feeds your soul, right? So, uh, Chris, like if someone wants to connect with you, what would be the best medium?
Mm. Thank you, Avik. Yeah, the best way to find me and connect with me is chrismarhefka.com. It's my personal website. It's where I have all of the ways in which people can work with me, connect with me, join my newsletter. Um, yeah, I am on Instagram as well at Chris Marhefka. Not as active there as some, but my website has all the ways to connect with me.
Oh, okay. That's amazing. Great. So, dear listeners, I'll put all the links into the show notes for your easy reference. And I have to say that you are not alone, and you don't have to, think about it anymore. So, with this hope, until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and remember that the true strength is found when we stop pretending and start feeling. So, that's a very good part of it. So, with this hope, this is your host Avik signing off from Mind Over Masculinity. Have a great day ahead. Thank you so much.